This is Boxing Tickets NI in association with SB Sports Chaco. We're delighted to be joined by the California kid, Rhys Moran. How are you, Rhys?
Not too bad. How are you? Thanks for
Always
having me on.
fantastic. It's Wednesday morning in Belfast, and the weather doesn't look too bad today. It looks a bit grey and overcast, but thankfully for once there's no rain.
Yeah.
How's things
That's
with
it.
you in Waterford? You're from Waterford, the place that's known more famous for crystal than anything else. How's things down in Waterford with you?
It's not too bad. The weather isn't too bad here as well, so that kind of puts a smile on my face. Waterford is good. I suppose everybody's trying to get back to normality now with the restrictions kind of get lifted and eased in certain parts, you know. So I think everybody is a little bit more, I suppose, joyful around. So it's nice to actually walk around and see a couple of smiles on people's face instead of masks, you know. But things are all good down here. Training hard, working, and just positive.
Living the life, as they say.
Yeah.
I guess I brought that wee joke out there about Waterford, Waterford Crystal, but wouldn't it be great if you were probably more well known than Waterford Crystal was? That'd be the dream, wouldn't it?
Oh, it'd be amazing. Look, in Waterford, it's such a small place, you know. It's nearly like everybody knows everyone, kind of. And I suppose with sports as well, you'd be known that a little bit more. So, I'd be kind of popular enough. But anybody boxing from Waterford or hurling, whatever sport you are, you'd be a familiar face because you know they kind of do support their own down here. So which is great, you know. As you probably heard, or if you'd seen when we held the pro boxing here at the Rinking Show, it was a jam-packed night, you know, and they all got behind Craig McCarthy, who headlined it that night. Rohan Dade, Barry Barnes, lads that are all local lads, and everybody showed out for it, you know. And it was talked about for such a long time, and even still to this day, people are asking, when are you fighting in the Rinkings? When is the Rinkings coming back? When is this? You know, so. But to be on a world platform like you're saying, like Waterford Crystal, oh, it'd be amazing. Who wouldn't want that? Getting presented to the White House.
You'd be rolling deep in the notes, which wouldn't be too bad either.
Hey. It would be nice.
As we do with anybody we sort of bring on for the first time, it's sort of more of a get to know sort of type interview. You know, I guess sometimes people look at the picture of where you are here now without obviously understanding where you got to in the sport. We sort of don't know sometimes the audience that tune in, you know, whether it's maybe young amateur boxers sort of trying to get to the level as you as a professional boxer. So sometimes sort of gives them food for thought on why you get involved, what was amateur boxing like. So it could probably maybe get us another champion or two, who knows, down the line. So we never know who's watching. So if any of the young ones are watching, hopefully you can give them something inspirational along the way. No pressure.
Yeah, that'd be good.
But what age did you start out boxing and why? And was it something within the family, or was it just a case that you wanted to try something different?
Yeah, I have a picture there. It's on my social media. I'm in a nappy and the glove raised up since I was 2, I think. It was always kind of around. It is from my dad's family. A lot of them did fight, whether it was kickboxing, boxing, mostly boxing. I have cousins who fight. I have uncles who fight. It is in the family, you know. But my dad was a big soccer man. I mean, he played football all his life. My dad was a very good footballer. Wanted me to be a footballer. My first word was football, believe it or not. And the only thing that actually used to wake me up as a kid was the Match of the Day theme song when I was lying in the buggy going for a sleep. But look, I played football. I played for Waterford in the hurling and the Gaelic football as well. I played at high level at soccer. But the boxing took over for me, you know. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed what I hated the most about, I think, team sports was there'll be 14 lads on a hurling team or a Gaelic football team. And I felt when the going got tough, there would be at least 10 lads that would hang their heads and not try, and that bothered me. I was determined I wanted to win. And the same thing on the soccer pitch. And when I trained, and when I played match, I wanted to win. And with the boxing, I found that, when I trained, if I didn't perform, if I didn't box, if I didn't win, it was because of my own doing, your coaches are in your corner. They advise you on what to do. They can tell you how to beat your guy. You're out there for 3 minutes or a minute and a half starting off, and they're watching the mistakes he's making, and they're watching the mistakes you're making, getting caught with punches into positions that you shouldn't be in. So it's up for you to listen to them, but mainly it's the training that you've done. Have you listened to them non-stop in the gym? Have you listened to them when you got back to the corner and they've told you, look, his left hand is low, you should be popping him with a backhand, you should be popping him with a hook, and it's things like that. He's leaning down with his head, bringing up the uppercut. And if you don't do those things, it's really on you. There's not, look, the 10 lads behind me, or so that's what I loved. I love the competitive, and I'm a freak. I might be a freak, I don't know, but maybe a lot of fighters are like this, but I actually love getting punched into the face. There's just something about it, when you get in, whether it's sparring or fighting, I feel very lost, and I think it's just been a big part of my life, and I've loved it since I'm a kid. I really kind of took it serious around 9 or 10. I boxed right through my amateurs. I never really took a break. I had a few injuries on the way. They were my breaks. I was obsessed. It was, what? If I'm to explain my love for boxing, I would say it's someone who's addicted to drugs, or I suppose heroin is probably it is the most addictive drug out there, and when someone doesn't have that, they'll go above and beyond to get it, and I think that's the way I was, when I'm not boxing, when I'm not training, when I'm not able, like the pandemic, wasn't able to get to the gym all the time. I was very low, and it's my outlet. I'm a very calm, I'm a very happy person when I'm boxing. When I'm not boxing, I'm agitated, I'm frustrated, and it's great that that's what my attention is to, and I wouldn't be an addictive person. I don't have an addictive personality, but when it comes to boxing, it's boxing. I'm in work, I talk boxing. I like, if I have a lull in the day, or if I'm on my break, I'm on YouTube, I'm watching boxing. Do you know what I mean? So for me, you were talking about young champions earlier on, kids that would probably watch this interview and hopefully to inspire. I hope I do, because there was people that I watched, that I tuned into when I was a kid, that I looked up to. Like, if I was to tell you how my career went, it would probably baffle you. I boxed. I think it's like 5 Munster titles, 4. I've 6 county titles, 2 Irish titles. Boxed for Ireland a couple of times. Boxed down the European Championships at under 18 level. I've been bet off the best. At that stage, and probably now, and Olympians as well, I've been bet off kind of at Irish level. I've boxed Michael Levin 2-3 times, boxed Kieran Malloy, I boxed Sean Conroy, I boxed all elite guys, you know what I mean? Tommy Hyde, all lads that were Irish champions, world medalists, European medalists. And that wasn't they weren't bad guys to be bet off, but in saying that, I had my off days, I had box guys that weren't half as good as me, and I'm saying to myself, just going home in the car, and I cry, and I would cry, and I wouldn't be because I was after getting fed up, or if I was after getting hurt. It was because I was disappointed in myself. And that's what would have killed me, you know, and that's what does kill me, you know. And but I remember someone saying to me, you don't lose, you learn, you know, and if you don't learn, then it's a loss.
Yeah.
And it's so true. Like I've had more losses than I have wins, you know what I mean? And that's in life in general. Um, I've uh, I've had some roller coaster years. I've had some mad situations in the boxing. I've traveled all around the world with boxing. I've been to South Africa, I've been into Cape Town, I've been in Lisbon, Portugal, I've been to Russia, I've been Germany. We've been. I could continue counting where I've been, you know, and I just think the opportunities, the discipline, everything in boxing is fantastic, you know. And if you're a great person, you'll travel far, you know. And if you give yourself, like, if you give yourself to the sport, I think the sport is very rewarding. And you know, that doesn't mean to say that you're going to come out cashed out with loads of money and loads of big fancy cars, fancy house, you know what I mean, and live that Instagram life that we were talking about earlier on, you know. I think you become very rich as a person, you know. The knowledge that you gain out of a boxing gym is crazy. How to deal with life, you know, probably daily situations, you know. It's helped me a lot. And I found over the last year or two, if I hadn't been boxing or if I hadn't had boxing in my life, I think things would be very different today, you know, because I've had some serious situations occurred in my life and I had the discipline and I had the will, I had the mentality to push through things, you know, even when I thought I couldn't, I did. And I think, and there's nobody going to tell me any different, you know, boxing done that for me, you know, because when you're in the gym and you can't throw your hands anymore, or you can't do that last press up, you have your coach standing behind you saying, get down and give me one more. You know what I mean? And so when you're in sparring and you're banjoed, I don't want to curse, but you're banjoed and you have one more round to go, or you have to do a round. They say one more round. Come on, give me one more round. You have one more round to do, and you're knackered. But you know what? You say to yourself, "I'll do it. I'll do it." And every time you'll do it. You don't get out. You don't say no, 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 no. You do it, no matter how tired you are. When your coach tells you you're doing one more round, you're doing one more rep. You do it, and that's what I find. You know, it's rich in that way. So in life, when life gets on top of you, when training gets on top of you, boxing's there for you, you know. So
with you having an addictive personality to boxing, like, have you always had that addictive personality, sort of, you know, that boxing sort of life? Or did it sort of, you know, when you're sort of saying about, you know, when you were getting beat by someone and you're coming home and in tears and stuff in the car, how did you find sort of defeats as a sort of young, you know, now you're 23, probably, you know, you've had defeats, you've tasted it, you know, but it's like both as an amateur and a pro. How did you deal with it when you were so addicted to the sport? You know, was it probably because that you were addicted to the sport that much that when you get beat, you're going, "All right, I'm better than that. That guy's a donkey. He shouldn't have beat me. You know, it's my own fault. I didn't train hard, or I just played into his hands." How did you deal with sort of that side of things, or where did the addictiveness come in?
yeah, I do, like, I'll recall I was actually talking about this story recently. I remember I used to box this guy. I boxed him 3 or 4 times. I was 13. This was a big wake up call for me. Oh no, sorry, I was 15. And we were at that age, you know, where you're starting to mature, you're starting to jump from weights and stuff. So I was after boxing this guy a couple of times and I wanted to stay at my mate's house. And little did I didn't listen to my mom or my dad, and they were saying, "No, you're fighting tomorrow." And I was like, "No, no, no." Said, "All right, fine." Left me off. I was up all night. Told me I'd go to bed early. I didn't, and I was up all night. I was half dead in the car. My mother said, "You're not going to fight." No, I was. So I grabbed myself a can of Red Bull and a Mars bar. I'll never forget this. And I went down to the Wexford it was, and I boxed this guy, and I had bet him already before this, and I bet him twice, I think. And I went down and I looked at him. He was bigger than me. He was stronger. He was fit. He came back and he wanted to win. And he was a good guy. He was a good guy. He was at a good level. And I went out and he caught me with a big shot in the first round. And it was the first time ever in my career at that stage at 15, I got a standing count. And it was the standing count that gave me the shock more than the punch.
Mm-hmm.
And I fought on and I got beat the split decision. And I was devastated, but I was coming home in the car and I had a really bad pain in my head and the light was hurting me. And I was telling my mum, I ended up going to hospital. I stayed in the hospital for 3 days. They thought I had a bleed in my brain. So I went for CAT scans, MRI scans, went for everything, and I wasn't. I was just concussed in the end, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
But it was stupid to have that approach, but like that, I learned, you know, and I didn't make that mistake again. Going back to what you were saying, when I lost, I sat down and I said to myself, you know, why would you do that? Why would you risk your health for something that didn't really even matter? You know, I didn't even hang around with those guys probably a year or two later. You know, I was in 6th year, they were gone out into college, work, whatever it was, you know, there was a year or two between us, you know, and it didn't matter, you know, but what mattered to me was my boxing and fights like that. And I've had fights, like you said, lads that I should have bet. And where the addictiveness came out of was, I wanted to prove my worth, you know. I've had a lot of people say to me, you're not good enough. You're not going to do this. You're not going to do that. You're not going to win this. You're not going to win that. And to me, it's like, no, fuck you. Like, I am going to do this. Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't to prove anybody wrong as such, but when you love something so much, you're not going to listen to somebody say, you can't do this. You can't. And it's like someone telling you, you can't walk down that road when you know you can, you know, and it's just something deep inside you. So when I was crying coming home in the car, my mom would she'd be crying too, because she could see how hurt I'd be. Whereas my dad is real hard knocks and he'd be like, shut up whinging, will you? Like, you lost, get over it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The next time you go down and fight him, you're going to stop him. Do you know what I mean? And that's the way my dad was. So I had the balance, you know. I had my mom that cared that her son knew he could have done better, and she knew I wasn't sad because I was after getting a few digs. You know, she knew I was sad because I knew I could have done better, and I was disappointed. And like that, there was sometimes where I didn't train hard enough in the gym, so I trained harder. You know, there were some times where I didn't perform on the day, you know. I could have came back, like there were silly mistakes, like, you know, I could have been sick 2 weeks previous run up to the fight, I had a chest infection, or I could have a blocked nose going into the fight, and it was just little things like that. You know, if I could have had a sore hand and went in and fought and not been half of my version, you know. But anybody who normally ever bet me, and anyone that was not at my level, I would have went back in and I would have destroyed him and given him a boxing lesson. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's what it is. It's more determination more than anything. It's probably more than what addictive, with the addictive side, you know. I'd be wise in that sense. I'd be very, I wouldn't say intelligent, but I wouldn't have just sat there and been like, oh, I lost, and turn myself up. I lost, but why did I lose? Why? How did I lose? And I'd sit down and I'd sit in my bedroom, I'd put on my headphones, love music, listen to my music, and I'd be sitting there, and I'd be thinking, right. And within an hour, I could be back home from a fight, could be in All Ireland's, and I'll be out on that road running. My mom and my dad could tell you this, you know what I mean? And I'd be out on the road running, or I'd be out the back garden shadow box. You know what I mean? I had a punch bag hanging off my wall out in the back of my mother and father's house, banging the bag. Do you know what I mean? And that's where it came from, you know? So I love the buzz. I love the fight.
Was it around the same time then, sort of around that time where, you know, you had aspirations of turning pro at like 15 or 16? Was that when would you probably say that was probably the height of the addictiveness, that you were just going, I just want to turn pro now? You know, where did that sort of come from? Was that just, you know, like you're sort of saying, you know, you're addicted and stuff to the sport? Was it sort of, you know, around that sort of time you were going, let's just turn pro? You know, where did that sort of come
Yeah,
about from?
actually, I fought Kieran Malloy in the Tower Hotel in Waterford. And Spike O'Sullivan came down. I was a huge fan of Spike. I went down, he was my first ever pro fight watching him down in Cork. I have a great relationship with Spike. And he came down with the belt and all that. And I just told Spike, you know, I don't really like the amateurs. And I think I'd be great. I think I'd be a great pro. And I said, I like Andy Lee. And, you know, and I had met Andy Lee before this and stuff, you know. So, Spike watched the fight and he was like, great, you have super talent, you know. And I fought him Malloy, we had a great fight. And he came over to me after the fight and he just said, you're good talent, you're a good kid, and you know, like, you're great. And like, I lost that night in my hometown, but Kieran, who had just came home from winning a bronze medal in the Worlds, it was a good opposition, you know what I mean? And everybody wanted to see this. So we had a good fight, and Spike just said to me, look, you can come up to Pascal's gym whenever you like, you know. And I was thinking about it. I said it to my mom and my dad, and I was just going to hop on the bus at 15 or 16 and go all the way up to Dublin. But I didn't. My mom said to me, look, you're still a bit young. I kept in contact. I had Spike's number and I had him on Twitter. I downloaded Twitter. I didn't even know what Twitter was at this point. I downloaded Twitter just to follow Spike. He followed me back and he messaged me. My mom said to me, give it another little while. She said, you're still a bit young and you can't fight in Ireland. Anyway, he told you can't fight in Ireland until you're 18. Right. So I was like, grand. So I trained. And at this point, I hadn't won an Irish title. In May of that year, I fought in an All-Ireland semi-final and I dislocated my kneecap. And I'll never forget it. I was winning the fight, second round. I was boxing, excellent, brilliant. It would have been my first Irish title. And I know I would have won it that year. And my knee popped out. And I got very lonely, got very upset, frustrated again. And the first message that came in on my phone was from Spike O'Sullivan. And I'll never forget it. And he said, Rhys, I heard you had some bad luck in the stadium. If there's anything I can do, or if you need anything, just don't be hesitating to ask. You know what I mean? And that, to me, that meant the world. And I wanted to do that to somebody one day. You know, I want to be someone at his profile, be able to do that to somebody. Do you know what I mean? Make somebody's day, and it did. It made my day. It made my year. Do you know what I mean? And I came back.
I'm actually in shock here. Spike's been nice to somebody.
Yeah. Now that I know him, he's a dickhead.
That's his profile ruined now. He's actually been nice to somebody. He's going to have to retire. Everybody's going to be thinking, Spike's a nice guy.
Big time he's going to have to retire. But so I started college then, right? I was 16 leaving school with a leaving cert. I was very young leaving school. I just turned 17 and I went into college, and I got a call off Davey O'Brien, and he actually called my mother and he said, Lisa, are you at Rhys by any chance? She said, no, he's in college. He said, look, the Russian team are over training with the Irish team. Do you want to bring him down? And my mother just hung up the phone, rang me straight away. I'm coming in, I'm on the way in the road. Yeah, the Irish team are training with the Russians down in Dungarvan. We're getting you down. Okay, no problem. Said to my teacher, no problem. So I went on and I boxed down with the Russian team and the Irish team. And I remember there's a couple of lads on the team. They're like, what are you even doing here? You're not even an Irish champion. Like, you've never won an Irish title. And I said, mark my words, I'm going to win one this year. And at the end of the week, it was Friday. My father brought me down. It was test match day. And I'll never forget this. They told me to jump into the ring, and I boxed Artem Ugazme, his name is, right? He's world youth champion as a pro. He won the Worlds in November. I was test matching him in February. He got the best junior boxer in the World Championships that year. I have a picture with him as well, and it's mad. I boxed him. Jerry O'Malley came over, walked over to my dad, and he said, you know who he's in the ring with? He's in with the current world champion. He got the best junior boxer. The thing, are you sure you want to be racing them? My father being my father. Yeah, he'd be grand, like, he'd be fine. And Fergal McKenna was in McMorton. He told me to just double jab, left hand hook, and don't even get in close. If you even get in close, you're not going to do well. So it was grand. I done what Fergal came back after the first round. Fergal McKenna was like, right, start bringing it to the body, bring it up to the head, keep throwing. And I done very, very well. And then I remember Billy McLean and 2 or 3 other coaches came over and they were like, who are you? Like, what's that? And I told them my situation. Look, I've been bet off Mike and Levin every year. And I said, a couple of the other guys, so they're like, look, we have another Russian team flying in next week. Do you want to do a second week? I was like, yeah, no problem. And I was buzzing. And that kicked really off like my year then for me. So I had a super year that year. I fought in April, won my first Irish title, and fought in May at best. Tommy Hyde in the final. Huge year. There was like, at the time, Christopher O'Reilly was Irish champion. It was just one of those weights where nearly every Irish champion was in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the only one that wasn't an Irish champion, and I won it out. And I was delighted. It was an achievement for me, like Kevin Keogh, Irish champion, Tommy Hyde, Irish champion, Christy O'Reilly, Irish champion, Michael Nevin, Brett McGinty. There was Brian Kennedy, I think, was in it as well. Like it was huge. It was just huge. It was a serious amount of Irish champions, and I went on one and we went out to the European Championships, and I had a great fight out there against the current European silver medalist, and I got bet off in the close fight off that. And then I had a couple of fights then internationally with Ireland. So I came back and I was starting to hit senior level then. And I remember I boxed Sean Conroy in the under 22s. I wanted to go out and box the Europeans and win a medal out in the Europeans. That was my goal for that year. And I boxed Sean Conroy, and I personally myself thought I won the fight. I got bet in a split decision, and that crumbled me because I was training like a pro. I was training every day, every single day. And I knew I bet him. And there was a couple of people who turned around to me and said, you won that fight. And to me, I turned around to my mother and I said, look, listen to me, I can't continue boxing if I'm doing this. I said, I'm coming up here and I'm not getting a decision. I said, no, it didn't happen. Like I said to you, it didn't happen all the time, but it happened. And I was devastated. So I just said, look, I'm going to turn pro. If I don't turn pro, she said, look, I'll support you. So we went down, we sat down, we had a chat with a couple of people. And Neil Power, who ran the Ring King show here in Woodford, told me, my mum, he said, look, if you're going to turn with anyone, I'd like you to turn with Pascal Collins. And originally I was like, oh, I'd love to turn with Pascal Collins, but he doesn't take on just anyone.
Yeah.
So I got contact with Spike. Neil got in contact with Pascal. I think Spike got in contact with Pascal. So I came up one day, and I remember Tony Davitt was just there as well. He was someone that was kind of interested as well. He kind of heard that I was turning over. I remember Tony was like, had a contract, and he kept giving me the contract, and I had nothing of it, didn't know anything about it. I remember Pascal just throwing me Celtic Warriors t-shirt, and he said, there's a little souvenir for you. And he said, come up again next week. It went up next week, and I said, what's the story with these contracts? And Pascal got it. He said, you tell Tony that you're with me now. And I wasn't. But in a way, I think Pascal was kind of protecting me from, not jumping into something and signing something away, because it's easy happen, and I don't, look, Tony doesn't mean anything by it, it's just someone comes out, you want them, do you know what I mean? You want the fighters, you want to have a stable and stuff, and that's what Tony was looking to do. And I remember I was training up in Pascal's, training for ages, and they were very welcoming. But what I do remember was hail, rain or snow, I was getting, at the time I wasn't driving, I was getting the train up. I was getting a bus to the train. The train was 3 hours, and I was getting the train. Then I'd walk 20 minutes to over to the bus stop to Stony Batter, I think it was. I get the 39A bus into Blanchardstown. I'd walk from Blanchardstown village then to the boxing club, which is about 10-15 minutes, and they were all the same thing going home that evening. I do that 3 times a week. And Pascal loved that, and I think that's what got me into the gym, like you could be the most talented person in the world. But if you don't show respect, if you don't show that you're willing to fight, you're willing to learn, I don't think Pascal's going to have any time for you, you know. And I think everybody in the gym is like that, you know. Like we were talking yesterday about the banter that we have in the gym. We can have that banter because Pascal has picked guys that don't have egos, that don't think that they're better than anybody, that don't have this, like, oh, I'm, for an example, like at the level, the pedigree that Spike O'Sullivan's at, like Spike could walk into the gym and throw his weight around, and he'd have every right to do so because he's only been better 4 good world champions at that. So, but there's none of that. Spike walks in with his own little duffel bag, his tracksuit, comes up, have a coffee, he'd slag you, slag that fella, sit down, take about 2 hours texting on his phone, and then he might decide to hit the bag for a little while and then go back texting on the phone again.
Spike doesn't do any work in the gym then.
Spike is Twitter, like you said, the mother-in-law. So he has to keep her informed of what he's doing all the time.
He always regards me, you know, you always know someone that's always there telling jokes. Is that what Spike's like as a person? Is he always just randomly just comes up with a joke somewhere and you're going, like, how have you stored that in your head? You know, he just, like, I think if Spike wasn't a boxer, he could definitely be a comedian.
Oh, 100%. And you know, he could be a very, very good promoter as well, I think. He'd be one of those guys that just, he could just get a crowd into a room, make them all laugh, but he could take all their money too, you know?
Yeah.
I think he'd be a very good addition to being a promoter. And but Spike is brilliant, you know, and it's those little things that you have to kind of say, because I know if Spike was on the interview, he'd be slagging one of us, you know, and he's slagged me a couple of times now. Like, look, me, I have a good relationship with Spike now. I've been down to his house a couple of times over the pandemic. We went down to Steve Collins's 25th or 26th year anniversary of Chris Eubank fight down in Cork, and I went down again, like, in, you know, just the things he was saying. He's wild. He's a wild character, but he's been so good to me. Like, we've shared rooms in training camps in the hotel, and just the slags that I get at him, like, he convinced that I think it was Johnny Conlon, and I think the manager, I think the woman running the hotel, that I was fighting for gay pride, never mind boxing, you know, and he had everybody convinced. He said that's why he's wearing a pink jumper. Look at him. And he's like, fair play to him though. He's doing very, very well, and he'd be dead serious, and people believe him. And I'd be like, no, I'm not. And then it's just easier to agree sometimes, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, nah. Look, so look, that's where my pro came out of. You know, I did want to always turn pro, but I turned at an early age because of the decisions that I was getting, you know. I obviously would have liked a major medal. I think a lot of people would have. But I'm happy with the decisions I made, you know. I'm happy where I am now, you know.
When you sort of look back at like amateur boxing, you know, it's like, to give you a different example, sort of when you go to school, you hate school, but then as you get a bit older, you go, why did I not study more in school? Do you sort of look back at, I know obviously you said you wanted to win a major medal as an amateur, but do you sort of look back and sort of go, what if, or what is done as an amateur? You know, like, whenever you're speaking, there's no disgrace and getting beat to the likes of, you know, Kieran Malloy just turned pro, making his debut the 26th of February next month. So he's making his debut, and it's no disgrace to lose that. And it didn't sound like any of the, you know, you had tears of losing because you were beaten. It was because you knew you could do better. Do you believe that sort of your amateur defeats have probably got you to the person you are today?
100%, 100%. It kept me very grounded. Look, I have 2 fights as a pro. I'm 1-1, you know. I lost my second fight, and it crumbled me, but it took me out of a place that I was very dark in, you know. Look, it's probably no secret now. I've kind of shared a little bit about it on my social media. We were talking a little bit about earlier on about my this is probably the biggest loss that I've ever had. So this is why I'm going to jump into this instead of my amateur. I made my professional debut. It was on such a high. It was a dream come true. It was my dream. You know, I wanted to box pro, and to get my hand raised in my pro debut was something amazing. You know, I had a great night, and it was fantastic. World pandemic hits, it all falls. You know, I was going through a little bit of trouble in my personal life. Just family problems, you know, and I then became, like I said, I have a great relationship with my mum and dad. But I came to a stage there where I was with my partner. I split away from my partner, and I became kind of like homeless for all the world, and I did, and this kind of stuff was happening between getting a fight, you know. But I wanted to fight. My mind, my heart wanted to fight. But physically and mentally, I wasn't there. But I was telling myself I was, you know. I was 25 kilos overweight. I had 5 weeks to make it. And I made the weight, but I wasn't in a state to fight, you know. The best thing for me was losing that fight, because it made me talk to people. I didn't talk about anything to anyone. I kept it all reserved, kept it all to myself. I remember coming home, my mother collected me from the airport. I ended up breaking down, telling my mom, you know, I spent a couple of days over in Belgium, said nothing to the guys, said nothing to nobody. And I was holding back the tears because I was at the stage where I was broken as a person, you know. And I went back and I talked to my mom, I talked to my dad, you know, and I ended up moving back to my mom and dad's house. And at the time I was sleeping on the couch because they had nowhere for me to stay, but they took me back, you know. I wasn't on the streets, so
yeah,
I was happy for that, you know. And I came back, and I remember it was like a day or two after coming back from Belgium, and I landed, and I remember talking to Pascal on the phone. I told him everything, and he was so understanding. He was so good to me, you know, and he still is so good to me. And it was from then, that really helped me as a person. How understanding Pascal was, how good my teammates were. Like, I remember how low I was and how good the lads were to me out in Belgium, not knowing how actually low I was and what I was actually going through, but how good they were to me because of just a loss, you know. And so I sat down, I talked to Pascal. He was like, that's grand. I came back up to the gym, and about 2 weeks later, and I was a different person. I was a different person in the ring, you know. I have a lot more anger in my body now. And it's not necessarily off of people. It's frustration, like that loss. I shouldn't have lost. I shouldn't have lost that fight. I know I could have bet him. I know I could have bet him 10 minutes over. But he's 3-1 as a professional. Do you know what I mean? He's won 3 fights. He's lost 1. Do you know, he's far from a journeyman. You know, he's not a journeyman opposition. Go on to BoxRec, you look him up. He's 3-1. You know.
Started his confidence trail for him as a pro.
Yeah. So
for you losing to him, give him his first win, and were you sort of, you know, look at boxing and a confidence sort of thing where he lost his first fight and was probably feeling what you were like in your second fight, but he's then won, and it's then built him that confidence to go, I can do this, you know. And now he's 3-1 rather than 0-1.
Yeah, but unlike that, you know, I had a conversation with him after, you know, and he had told me he had a couple of fights as an amateur, you know, in amateur Polish championships. He'd have to win in the national Poland championships a month before that. So he was fit, he was ready. He had no ring rust, he had no nothing, you know, and he came to win. He did. He came to win. You watch the fight, he came to win. He didn't stand back and leave me catch him with shots, you know. And a fight like that was just not right for me then and there. But in life, it improved me. As a boxer, it improved me 10 times more. Like I said to you, 2 weeks after that, after I telling everybody that meant something to me, my problems, and starting to sort those problems, I then went from that to going into the ring and doing 6 or 7 rounds and being ferocious in that. And I remember I remember Pascal standing back and wow. I mean, that's the best spar that you've had in this gym since you've come here. And I think my training has been better. I then caught COVID just before Christmas this year. My training was going well, and my breathing is a little bit bad now. But even since I broke that mentality in my head, I went for a run the 27th of December, and my chest kind of closed in, and I couldn't. 2 days later, I went and I done twice the distance in my run. I done 10 kilometers, and felt great. And to me, then that was it. I'm back, and that's it. My training's been going so well so far. I'm hoping to spar up in the gym today. I'm feeling stronger on the pads. I'm feeling, I'm taking everything in. I've slowed things down, in a sense of my work rate, and I'm perfecting everything. I want my jab to have the same impact my backhand does, you know. I want my hooks to knock fellas out. I want to take fellas' heads off. And it's the fact that I want to start showing people how good I really am, how good I know I am, you know. When I'm lying down in the bed and I get that burst of energy to jump up and do a bit of shadow boxing, like that's what I want to show people. I want to show people that there's more to me than what I had given in Belgium, you know, and that was just an off time for me. But in saying that, if that didn't happen, I think I mentioned to you earlier on before we started the interview, I don't know where I would have been in life now, you know, because I was that low, you know. So yeah, losing sometimes is probably the best thing for you. And do I think that I could jump into a domestic fight in the morning with the mentality and the headspace that I'm in now? I think that I could jump in with anybody, and I think I'm going to win. You're going to have to carry me out in a stretcher or a body bag to get me out of a ring now, without winning a fight, because I have a different, and I know I've said it already, my mentality has changed. I'm a different person. I have anger, but I'm happy, if that makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I was missing a little bit as well in the pro boxing, you know, that little bit of nastiness, that little bit of fuck you kind of thing. So I think I have that now. Like, come on, land two on me. I'm going to land three, and I'm making sure you're not getting back up. You know, that kind of way. That's the way I feel, and I want to progress on that. And people like Spike O'Sullivan, Craig O'Brien, Daniel Sullivan, another guy in our gym. Watch out for him. I'm telling you, remember his name. I promise you. Ray Moylet, Eric Donovan, all these lads with huge experience. I've sat in the room for hours with Spike, and the stories he's told me about his career and stories about his life and things that's going on. And Spike has been another person that's helped me get out of these dark places as well. So like that, everybody has a story to tell. And what we were talking about earlier on, you know, you'd like people to understand a little bit more about people, you know. And I think in a lot of people's head now, which I'm kind of happy with, is he's 1-on-1, like his career is not going to kick on now from here. Whereas I'm looking at, right, I want someone domestic. I want an undefeated fighter. I want to go in and I'm going to stop someone. I want an Irish title this year. I want a Celtic title this year. I want to fight. I'm not doing 4-rounders anymore. My next fight, I want a 6-rounder. Do you know what I mean? Kevin Cronin wanted, well, there was an offer made for Kevin Cronin to fight me the 26th of February. Like I said, I had the COVID. I said, I won't be fit enough for it, but I will fight him in March, April. No problem. No problem. I don't care about anyone. I'm here to box. I'm here to fight. I like to fight. I'm not here for a payday. I'm not here for a check. I'm not here for throw up on Instagram. I'm the boxer, you know. I'm this, I'm that, you know. I'm happy with the gym I'm in. I'm happy with the coach that I have, the manager that I have, which is the both Pascal Collins. He's a down-to-earth person, you know, and he cares about his fighters. And what meant to me before he knew anything that was going on in my life, he said, do you think I'm going to drop you? I'll never forget it, in Belgium. He said, do you think I'm just going to drop you now like a hot snot because you've lost that fight? He said, you have another thing coming to you. So I'm back to the gym next week, and that meant a lot to me. That meant that there's actually good guys in boxing, you know, because I know for a fact if that was anybody else, like, oh, we don't want this guy. Do you know what I mean? And I think it makes it a little bit easier to accept that the fact that I was going through some things and I didn't talk about them. But I know now in the future, if I'm going through something, I'm not going to take the fight, or if I'm going through anything that's going to upset that, I'm not going to do it. You know, I'm a lot wiser. I have my own place. I have my own apartment now, thank God. And I'm working a job that I got through sponsorship. That have been helping me. My sponsors have been fantastic, and I'm working and I'm training, and that's all I'm doing. I train, I work. That's it. I don't go out. I don't socialize. Very rarely, and that's it. I eat, sleep, and train. Do you know what I mean? And that's as far as it goes. And the hunger that I have in my stomach now, the anger that I have in my stomach, I'm going to be dangerous, and I can feel it. I can feel that I'm coming out. I'm going to do serious damage within the next year or two, you know.
When you sort of mention Kevin Cronin, obviously there, and you know the fact that COVID and a fight, it sort of leads me on to my next sort of subject. You know, I remember speaking to Stephen Sharp from Boxing Ireland last year, and I was sort of saying about super middleweight and light heavyweight sort of division in Ireland, north and south. You know, you probably have 8 fights, so you could probably make like a Super 8 type tournament. We've obviously had a few obviously retired. Taylor McGoldrick retired. Julio Cesar retired, but you still Kevin Cronin, Jimmy Morrissey, and Robbie Burke both fought, you know, on a couple of days' notice for the Celtic title. Sean McGlinchey, and obviously yourself, where you're sort of looking at domestic fights. I like when obviously preparing for the interview and things like that. I thought, well, you've had 2 fights in 2 years. COVID, you've had a win and you had a defeat. I thought, you know, the general sort of makeup would be you get a few other sort of handy sort of fights to get you back into things, but you want to go against that grain, that hunger's there. You know, if there's any Irish fights to be made, you want them.
Yeah, well, like, look, I sat down with Pascal and we've talked, like, yeah, I wouldn't mind a warm-up fight, you know, just throw the confidence back up a little bit. That'd be grand. I don't want, and I think Spike has kind of had the same journey, to be fair. Only his is a little bit different from mine, but Pascal actually made a very good point the other day. And I like to listen, I like to take in things, you know, and he was dead right in what he was saying. The best fights and the fights that you remember are domestic level. There are fights that, like that, the Muhammad Ali's, the Joe Frazier's, the George Foreman's, Mike Tyson's, they fought anyone and everyone. There was no, oh, I'm going to lose me, if I do this, you know. And that's what's wrong. There's a lot of boxers out there that are like, oh, no, I'm going to fight these journeymen, I'm going to fight these racemen, and I'm going to win all these. And then they get to just say 10-0 or 20 or 16-0 or 16-1, you know, and they get to that level and then it's bang, they meet someone that's decent and it's bang, game over, and they go from that down to the bottom quicker than what probably I will, because they're on a bigger stage. Not only that, after signing the contract, and then do you not think promoters and managers look at the records and say, well, look, he's after fighting lads with 100 losses, 60 losses, 100 losses, 60 losses, 80 losses, and then he gets one test and he's bang, gone, lights out, see you later. Do you know what I mean? Like, they look at those things, you know, and they say to themselves, well, look, he's been tested, he's no good. Do you know what I mean? And that's the way it is. That's the harsh reality of things, you know. Whereas I would like, in a case, I think personally myself, if I did have 1 or 2 warm-up fights, just per se, and I did fight in a tournament like that, which I think is a great idea. And if I did end up becoming on top of that, winning an Irish title, that propels me way farther in my career in less fights than what 17 wastemen do for me. You know, that kind of way. Yeah. And I think that's boxing. That's fighting. You know, that's what I'm here to do. You know, I'm not here to look great on Instagram or Facebook or that. You know, I'm here to, like, I want to win titles. You know what I mean? I want to win fights. I want someone to say, fuck me, that kid can fight. You know, like, he's been in wars. Like he had, like you remember, like or even when I'm sitting down on the motor, like you remember your Irish title fight, you went 10 rounds with, just say Jamie Marcy, Robbie Burke, Kevin Cronin, or whoever it is, whoever the lads are in the 8-man tournament.
I forgot to mention John Carpenter obviously in that conversation as well. Obviously, not I'm forgetting, but probably sorry, I think I sort of cut you off there as well. But even for John Carpenter, you know, like he's had 3 fights his whole career as a boxer, amateur and professional. So I guess in some ways, it doesn't matter what you sort of do. Sometimes as an amateur, doesn't care. You know, like I remember speaking to D Walsh this last year. Lawrence Okoli, I think. Lawrence Okoli, 44 fights total between amateur and professional to become a world champion pro boxer.
Yeah. And that's it, you see, and that's what it comes down to, you know. Like that, I think I'm being managed right, and I think I'm being looked after very well. And same with anyone who's managed on the past. Like I really can't speak more highly of Pascal Collins, to be honest. And I think Pascal agrees with this tournament. I think Pascal would agree with the domestic level. You know, like we're here to fight. You know, we don't want easy fights. You know, like that. Eric is with Mark. You know, but he's also with Pascal. He's going in for a test now. He's going in to fight. You know, he's not going in to get an easy day. Do you know what I mean? In the office. The same with Spike. Look, Spike's on the hunt for a world title. If he gets an eliminator or a world title, he's getting it and he deserves it. You know, he's had tough fights. You know, most of his fights were weights above his weight, but he's been better 4 world champions: Billy Joe Saunders, Chris Eubanks, David Lemieux, Jamie Munguia. Do you know what I mean? Like, all fantastic names, all lads that we watch on the TV and still watch to this day, you know, and that are all superstars. So to have a CV like Spike's, you know, like he's took on serious oppositions to get into those positions and fought weight divisions above him. And to me, that's balls there. That's heart. That's wanting to fight. Do you know what I mean? That's not paydays. That's wanting to fight. And I think boxers have lost that. Do you know what I mean? And Jamie Marcy, in fairness, Jamie Marcy and Robbie Burke put it on the line, you know. And I think Jamie, I think I watched one of his interviews and he said the same thing as well. He's here to fight. And that's great to hear. Do you know what I mean? It's great that fellas want to box. You know what I mean? Fellas want to fight. They don't care about these O's or the, Jesus, do I look good in my Tommy Hilfiger t-shirt or whatever? You know, it's right. I'm training. I'm in a training camp. I'm going to fight this guy and whatever. And it's domestic level. It's fantastic. And I guarantee in 10 years' time, if this does happen, even if it's not me, there's going to be lads talking about, remember the scrap in the stadium or in Belfast, and the lads went 10 rounds for the Irish title. Like the last man standing competition, it's still talked about. Roy Sheen, do you know what I mean? Didn't box for years, came in, bet Jack Cullen. Jack Cullen, look where he is at his career now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But they were real good fights, you know what I mean? So like those competitions set you up for the bigger in the long run, you know. So I do agree with having something like that, and I think there should be in 1 in 8 every weight division. With the way the pandemic has run things now, I think personally myself that's the way boxing should go back to, is fight and fight. Like Pascal was telling me mad stories, like when he was boxing as a pro, like it was just like fella would be in the hall, yeah, you're fighting him. Do you know what I mean? And that was it, you know, there was no records, you know, it was just like, yeah, you're fighting him, and that's it, and you get it on, you know, and you didn't know who he was, what he was, but they just fought. Do you know what I mean? And the best man win.
Exactly, and you know, to say if you can set it up around, you know, the light heavyweight division, and then sort of, you know, setting the mold for everything else. You know, it's like Sky done the prize fighter for years. You know, it's probably how
Brilliant.
John O'Carroll got to where he is now, obviously, you know, through prize fighter and things like that. But, you know, it probably seems to be, I don't know, whether it's a case of Boxing Ireland, who obviously do most of the shows other than the big names here, but it's whether they can get the financial power behind them to do something like that, because boxers need to be paid at the end of the day as well.
Yeah, you see, and that's it, right? But another thing that kind of raised my attention, right? Like boxing is probably one of the best sports Ireland has to offer. And it's been a big occurrence right lately. There's been this whole big thing on social media about that girl that lost her life to the attack, which is horrible, you know. And but who did they fall back to? They fell back to the Muay Thai clubs, the kickboxing clubs, the boxing gyms, and stuff like that. But nobody wants to fund them and nobody wants to support them. But you know what? There's plenty of girls, there's plenty of young men. There's like I've done fitness classes, I've done box fit classes, and women love it. Women love it, but we can't get the support off of communities. We can't get it off the government. You know, like our Olympic medals were won through boxing. You know, two Olympic champions are female boxers. You know, so like that, like we should be funded that little bit more. Whether it's professional boxing, amateur boxing, boxers should be looked after more. And to have these domestic fights, suppose look, I know I've known through obviously rankings and stuff that they were having hassle. I remember they were saying about insurance and stuff, and I believe insurance is probably sky high through the roof, which is ridiculous, you know. And getting places and getting venues that you can fit the right amount that people are making money off it, you know. But what I can't understand is soccer players, you know, they can be on 150 grand a week, you know, and they're fine when they walk off the pitch, you know. We can come out, you get cuts and broken nose, broken hand, you know what I mean? And sometimes you won't even get paid, you know what I mean? Or not even get paid, but you know, you're not getting not even a pinch of salt of what they're getting, you know. And I think that what happened with that girl, you know, it will open up eyes and it will start seeing, can we fund these things, you know, because there's plenty of young girls in boxing gyms all over the country. I'm sure if you walked into any gym around the country right now, I train in an amateur gym here, and there's heaps of young girls in it, you know, and I think it's getting more and more popular. Now, Katie Taylor kind of started it off. I think then when Kelly went over and done it again, I think there's even more women boxing. And now that Katie's in the pro ranks and she's on TV more, there's more women looking at that and being like, wow, I want to do this. You know what I mean? I want to start this. And the young girls as well, you know. So it's things like that that kind of open up the eye to this world a little bit. Like boxing clubs and gyms are probably one of the safest places in the world to be in, you know. When they're with confidence wise and stuff, I guarantee you walk into a weightlifting club or just a normal gym, you'll feel that everyone's watching you. You feel uncomfortable. You feel like people are laughing at you and stuff like that. If you walk into a boxing gym, I guarantee you, there's not one person looking at you. There's not one. They're too busy. They're too busy doing what they're doing, you know, and they probably know better to even do that, you know. So in that sense, you know, we should be funded more. Whether it's pro boxing, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai boxing, anything, you know, we should be looked after more. And I really think that it should be sports. It should be a sport that's probably, like, I know hurling is the big thing in Ireland, but I think boxing should be. Like Mick Conlon, I was watching his interview the other day, like he's saying that Belfast is only known for boxing. Do you know what I mean? Like boxing is Belfast, you know? And I think that should be all of Ireland, because the talent that we have here in Ireland as Irish fighters, amateur and pro, is phenomenal. You know, like how many European champions can you say are in this country as an amateur? Like, and how many world champions can you say are in this country as an amateur? Like, there's loads and thousands through the years, you know. So why not back something that can probably bring an audience to Ireland, to such a small island? You know, like Eddie Hearn was on about bringing something to Dublin, like the Crow Park for Katie Taylor. You know, of course you'd have to box there. But why is that such a problem that he has to wait for that to happen? You know what I mean? Like, she should be able to box over here whenever she wants. She's a superstar. She's global. why can't she come and box in Ireland? Do you know what I mean? In her home country, you know, she's undisputed. Like, there shouldn't be anything left to her for her to prove. You know, like, she wanted to retire in the morning, she should say, "Yeah, I want to fight in Dublin tomorrow morning," and that'd be that. You know, and
And
she
it's
and
done. Yeah.
yeah, you know, and that's it. Like, and she, you're telling me she wouldn't fill 80,000 people in a stadium? She'd fill 200,000 people in a stadium.
Easy.
Yeah,
It,
you know,
it,
and
it,
then
days
you,
where they're sort of hanging off lampposts and everything.
yeah, exactly. And you imagine that now. Michael Conlan wins this world title against Lee Wood. You know, you have him on that card. You have, just say, the one that probably people have been mad to see, Spike O'Sullivan versus Dennis Hogan for a world title on that card. And you have, maybe, you know, at that stage, then you probably have who's pushing into those kind of lines would be Kevin Hines or Gary Cully fighting for a world title then as well. Do you know what I mean? So, like, all that super talent, like, and that's serious fights that you have in one sitting. And like you said, there'd be people on lampposts, there'd be people probably trying to rent a helicopter just to hover over it and see, you know.
Exactly. You're obviously not signed to a promoter. Obviously, you made your debut in a Boxing Ireland show, and then you obviously fought in Belgium. Is it gonna be tougher coming out of a pandemic for you to get fights? Obviously, I know Pascal's like a miracle man, probably the same way Mark Dunlop's a magic man in Belfast. He always knows the right people, knows how to get fights. Does it play into your hands better that you're not under promoter, that it's easier for you to get fights, or what's the sort of mindset as the, you know, as a promoter, something you'd ideally want? They obviously take the pressure and burden away from Pascal.
Well, look, to be honest with you, I just do as Pascal says, because like I said, you know, he's guided me so well so far. And he's given me all the right advice, and he has the experience. He's been around some amazing people all his life. If Pascal said to me, "Look, I can get you a deal with this or such and such a person or such and such a company, I think it's the best deal for you." Okay, we'll sit down, we'll talk, we'll sign something or whatever, you know. And I would never, if somebody approached me, the first person I'd be ringing is Pascal and be like, "Here, look, these people have talked to me," or whatever. And I think that's it. And I wouldn't ever ask, or I wouldn't ever sign anything, or I wouldn't say, "Yeah, I'll fight him in the morning," and then consult Pascal. You know, if a fight came my way, I'd say to Pascal and say what way will I respond, or not even what way I will respond, but like, he has guided me in the right way, and he knows 1,000 times more than what I'll ever know. And like you said, with being a magic man, like, Pascal knows everyone and anyone, and it is great that I probably don't have a promoter, because he could probably hop me on to any show that comes up, you know. And if I'm ready and willing, you know, he could turn around to me today and be like, "Right, there's a show in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time. Are you fit? Do you know what I mean? Are you ready? Do you think you could go in and do a couple of rounds?" You know, and that'd be that. Like, so I think there's a bit more of an opportunity for you, that you can jump on, that you have your trainer, your manager, all in one, you know. So he knows if you're ready, realistically. He knows that you're training, you know, but he also knows that he can get you fights when you need them, you know. So I don't think it's going to be hard for me. I don't think so at all. I think when my fitness and my health is back to 100%, like I said, I'm still working on it now. It is 10 times better than what it was. But I would definitely need another couple of weeks to get back fighting fit. And I'm having my first spar today, so I will see how that goes, you know. But I'll be ready. I'll be ready for anything, and I think Pascal knows that, you know. So it's like the rest of us in the gym. There's a couple of lads that are in the same boat as me, you know, just managed and trained by Pascal, and it's great. It's great. You're nearly free, but you're not. You know, you don't have to worry about contracts. You don't have to worry about this or that. You know, Pascal's honest, so it's more like, I respect you, you respect me. You know, and it's very, 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 very hard to find that in boxing. very hard.
California kid. We always like to know where the nicknames come from. Where's California kid come from? Because you're not from California.
I'm not from California. I'm from Tramore in Waterford, which is a beachside kind of nearly like a resort for all the world. A lot of the dubs come down through the summer, kind of their little pad for the couple of months. But how I came about, I used to get, well, I probably still do from time to time. I get like all mad haircuts and I get all mad designs and colors in my hair. And I remember I was up in the gym one day and had like a fluorescent pink vest on and hair blue shorts or something. And a lad walked into the gym and he was like, yeah, turned around, he's like, I want to spar that guy over there. And Pascal's like, oh, you don't want to spar him? Like, he's from California, he's the kid. And next to then it clicked. He said, he's the California kid. And next to it, he was like, he's a world champion surfer, and he's number 2 in Ireland as he's number 2 in the world as an amateur world champion as well, boxer. And he's like, oh, really, really? He said, yeah, I still want to fight him because I look soft, you know. And he said, oh, he's strong now. He's strong. So he put into the ring. Your man came running through like 3 heavy shots, and I just turned, hit him a left hand straight down the middle. His nose just opened like a tap. Your man got out of the ring. And next then Pascal said to me, you're the California kid. And that was it then. It just stuck. And then everyone started calling me that. So that's where it really originated from. It originated from the Celtic Warriors gym. But I do a bit of surfing, and I live by the beach, so I can kind of see where they got the idea out of, you know.
Okay. It's always nice, you know, it's always nice to know where nicknames come from, because they always have meaning in summer.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not sometimes, you know, it's somebody calls you a name and it just sort of sticks. It's got a relevance, it's got a name, you know, and I guess sometimes it's better to have a name that has some sort of relevance and nothing at all. You know, you get introduced to the ring just as Rhys Moran, you're going, all right, so he mustn't be that good then because he doesn't have a nickname.
Yeah,
you know?
That's it. But look, since I'm a young fella, I was always kind of called the kid. Everyone used to call me, all right, kid, what's going on, kid? And I remember we done like this kind of little charity event, like, and they called me the kid on that. And then Pascal just called me the California kid after that little story that I told you there. So I was kind of always kid, everything was kid. I had a real baby face. So that's where that kind of came from. But I try to tell people I'm not always going to have a baby face.
You're 23 now, obviously. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we're in the final stages of the pandemic. You know, ideally looking, say, the pandemic ends tomorrow, everything's back to normal. What would you set your goal and aspirations over the next 12 to 24 months?
12 to 24 months, I'd like to win. My first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to win a Celtic title. Then I'd like to push on to win an Irish title and see where that sets me up then. That's what my dreams are, to like every boxer. Everybody wants to be a world champion. But with the way I have lived life over the last little while, the situations I've been in and the people I've lost through the last couple of years, you really don't know where or when your life is going or what's going to happen. So to me, over the next year to two, it's definitely a Celtic title to Irish title. I could hit a completely different path between now and then, you know. God knows where I could be living even, you know. So but that's the plan. That tournament sounds like a good idea if that came up and Pascal was cool with it. I'd like to see myself in something like that as well, you know, and just get fighting, you know. I'm a fighter, you know. That's what we do.
Yes. And we'll finish off the interview as we always do with everybody is obviously, you know, thanks and you know, thanking sponsors and things like that as well. You know, like you couldn't be involved in the sport of boxing. I know you've had 2 fights in 2 years, obviously on uncertain times with COVID and everything else, but you know, fighter medicals to pay, you know, if you're traveling and stuff to do, like you travel 3 times a week from Waterford to Dublin, you know, it's over 2 hours in the car, so you fuel, insurance and everything else, so costs build up, but obviously sponsors and people help to play a massive part in that. So we'll leave it to you, obviously, to give any thanks and stuff like that you'd like to give out to people.
Yeah, well, look, I'd appreciate you having me on this morning. It's been great to chat to someone. It's kind of nearly like I'm back in the limelight, nearly for all the world, and uh, it's great in that sense. My sponsors, they've non-stop helped. They've been fantastic. I've very, very good backing here in Waterford, so I am grateful for that. My mother, my father, my family, they've been fantastic. So I'd really like to thank them. They've put in tremendous work over the years, and especially over this year or two, it's been very hard for me. So special thanks to them. And the big man, Pascal Collins, he's the man, the myth and the legend. He's been a serious mentor for me, my life, and my family as well. So I'd like to say a special thanks to him. He's worth the traveling up and down to Dublin for. For me as a boxer, it's my dream. I'm living the dream, being around the people that I'm around. I got to meet some amazing people through Pascal, Spike, and all the rest of the guys up in the gym. So I'm thankful for all the lads in the gym as well for being so good to me as well. So yeah, that's really it. So just thanks to all those people. I wouldn't be where or who I am without all those people in my life.
Definitely. Well, we've obviously got to the end, and and as I say, obviously that's all she sort of wrote. It's been a pleasure starting to get to know you more. And say the reason I sort of do a lot of these interviews is more sometimes to get your story out there, and obviously who you are, and obviously a boxer and everything else. But it's more of an understanding to say, it's all well and good me putting up fight news for people all the time, but I can understand a story and an emotion that people's going through. When your hand's getting raised in the middle of the ring, you're going, well, now I can sort of glean a wee bit more information from that, of what people's going through. So it's been a pleasure having you on. Hopefully, obviously, everybody's been tuning in. Obviously, hopefully enjoys it as much as well. We'll keep our fingers crossed we do everybody that hopefully we can get you back in the ring soon and get some fight news sorted. Obviously, you're sort of doing a trend at the moment. You fought once in 2020, you fought once in 2021. Hopefully you can get 2 fights at least in 2022 with the way things are going, and sort of build that ladder upwards.
Yeah, that's it. That's the goal. And look, the other side to it then as well is look, everybody wants to be kept busy. Everybody wants to fight, So look, this is where we kick on from here on in now. This is the start of it again now. So I appreciate you having me on as well. It's been fantastic, and I'd love to jump back on for a chat when I get my hand raised again and we kick on with my career.
Definitely. Well, Rhys, listen, lovely chatting with you. Obviously, say to all the guys in Celtic Warrior, we're saying hello. Thomas Carter, be glad you didn't give him any abuse today. Spike got it all. So
Thomas is lucky, I tell you. There's a couple of things I could have said about big Tommy Mac there, but look, Tommy is a good guy, and he's funny too. He's just a dub at the end of the day. But me and Thomas have traveled the world together as well. Like, he's been over in Cape Town, South Africa with me. He's been over to Hangi Box Cup and a few places like that. So we've traveled as amateurs as well. So it's good that we're in the same gym as well. But
well, listen, thanks very much for tuning in with us, and I'm sure we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, brilliant.
Cheers,
thanks very much.
Take care.
See you later, man.
Bye.
Bye.